and reliable information so that they can make informed decisions and be productive citizens in a democracy. So here are our core principles. Journalism's first loyalty is to the citizens, to you, not to the media owners, not to the advertisers, not to our friends, or FOO, the friends of owners, or public officials. This means that we aspire to do journalism that is of public interest, that we write about issues that enlighten the national conversation and help build our nation. This means that in order to be effective, we have to be credible. The public must believe us, what we write and say, or at least know that we do not serve agendas other than that of doing our duty. Otherwise, we have no reason to exist. The second of our core principles, our first obligation is to the truth. What does this entail? That we stick to the facts. We do not embellish them. We let the facts take us to our conclusions, no matter that this may be so unpleasant to others. This means that we do thorough research and make sure that we get various sides to a story. We try our best to be fair and reliable. We contextualize information, and we should, as much as possible, be transparent about our sources. Third core principle, we must maintain independence from the subjects we cover. If we cannot do this, then we let others do the reporting, or at the very least, we disclose this. Friendship, it is said, is the worst form of vested interest for journalists. We are sometimes compared to judges, cold and impartial. But there's a paradox here. We cultivate the trust of our sources in order to get information. But when we find out that our sources themselves have committed wrongdoing or have violated the law, then we keep our distance and write about them. The fourth core principle, we monitor power, we serve as a watchdog. We want to make public officials transparent and accountable. We don't want them to work in the dark, where no one sees or hears them. We don't want them to be vampires, sucking our blood, or more specifically, taxpayers' money. The fifth core principle, we strive to practice the highest standards of journalism, and this includes disciplined research and verification, getting various sides to a story, and being fair. We should practice journalism without fear or favor. And the last of our core principles, ethical behavior is a must. We cannot use our position for private gain. We should not accept bribes or favors in exchange for stories. We have to be transparent and accountable in order for us to be able to demand the same from our public officials. So now I'll proceed to the challenges facing the media in reporting on corruption. Let me share with you some of the challenges. Overall, it's still the lack of transparency in some government agencies. As we will find out, some are more transparent than others. In the absence of a freedom of information law, access to public documents is limited. It is not institutionalized. So it still depends on your sources and your contacts in the offices. Specifically, our challenges are first, following the paper trail. In our experience with the Office of the Ombudsman, the following are public documents. I refer to our experience because there is no disclosure policy yet with the Office of the Ombudsman. There is no list of what documents are available to the public, and we just have to find out by making the requests. We've found out that public documents are cases filed with the Sandigan Bayan, asset statements or SAL-Ns of the President, Vice President, heads of constitutional offices, and GOCC heads. I'm pleased to share the news that you don't need to follow up for this request. They even give you feedback. Complaints filed by the Field Investigation Office, these are also public. And now we're requesting the Ombudsman for the 200-plus page field investigation office complaint against the Department of Agriculture for the misuse of, I think, 200 million pesos in savings of the Agriculture Department. complaints filed by the Field Investigation Office, decisions on complaints filed, and of course, there's a website of the Ombudsman where you can find press releases and announcements of investigations, filing of charges versus public officials, indictments. I think this was started under your term, ma'am. But documents and information on pending cases are kept away from the public, we were told, to avoid tarnishing people's reputation. But we've tried requesting updates on pending cases involving ranking officials, and we were provided this information. We suggest that these be made public, especially for high government officials. The next is more difficult one is following the money trail. Bank accounts are confidential, same with tax payments. The Anti-Money Laundering Council is super secretive. But as shown in the recent impeachment of Chief Justice Renato Corona, the Ombudsman blazed a new ground by accessing data from the AMLC. So would it be possible for the media to use this data, which were given to the Office of the Ombudsman in the course of their investigation of government officials? The Office of the Ombudsman, as we know, is given the power to check the veracity of all information provided in the SAL-Ns. So that's our favorite photo, following the money trail, maybe also following the people trail. Third challenge is providing in-depth reports in the age of cyberspace. The work of journalists has become more important in this digital and complex world. The speed of technology and global interdependence have deluged us with information such that the public needs to make sense of all this with the help of our profession. So journalists need to give shape to the flood of information so that the public can differentiate what is trash and what is important. This is not to inflate our importance, because this is also the age of citizen journalists, wherein anyone with a camera who is on the scene of a disaster or has found a supposedly substandard road can be a journalist. He can simply upload photos and videos on Facebook and tweet this information immediately. So this phenomenon has expanded our work because we need to vet tips, information, photos, and videos from the public. We have to make sure that these are facts, that the photos are real and not photoshopped. Thus, while we do get leads and tips from the public via Facebook, Twitter, feedback to our website and emails, we need time to check all of these out. So now let me go to our recommendations to the Office of the Ombudsman. First, I think, is the need for a disclosure policy. Journalists, I'll let you in on a secret, live for only one thing: stories. All we need is access to information. It would be very helpful if we can have a disclosure policy in the Office of the Ombudsman, similar to what other departments have undertaken. For example, Interior Department has started a full disclosure policy wherein financial reports, biddings and awards are made public. This could be seen on their website. The DPWH, under Secretary Singson, has launched a full transparency in operations program. You can find regular updates on government infrastructure projects, as well as disclosures of project irregularities involving their personnel. The DAR, Agrarian Reform Department, in 2011 issued an open door and disclosure policy. You can also check this on their website, and it lists exceptions which include personal information, drafts of documents, and privileged information covered by the rules of court. Same with multilateral institutions like the World Bank and Asian Development Bank. They've come up with their own disclosure policies, and in 2010, groundbreaking change took place at the World Bank, and now it's easy to make requests online, requests for certain documents, and they also have a list of exceptions like security and safety information and personal information. The second recommendation we would like to make to the Office of the Ombudsman is to be present in social media. A big source of news today is social media. We get breaking news updates, even official statements from Twitter and Facebook. it would be helpful if the Ombudsman has accounts in both of these social media. More than 30% of the Filipinos have access to internet, and most of these netizens visit Facebook and Twitter. As of 2011, we had 33.6 million internet users. It's still a fraction of the 90 to 100 million population. And Facebook users in the Philippines have reached 30 million, and we rank among the top 10 Facebook users in the world. For Twitter, in 2012, we had 9.5 million users, and we placed 8th in worldwide rankings in 2010. So even users of smartphones now can access social media using their mobile phones. The last part of my talk is, as we were asked to address, how can we help the Ombudsman in fighting corruption? My first answer is an indirect way of helping the Ombudsman. We in the media are also trying to clean up our ranks. Before the May elections, journalists and politicians, we signed a covenant to fight corruption in media, and this is a first in contemporary history. It was time to coincide with the start of the election campaign, which we know is a fertile season for bribes and favors. The signatories pledged not to engage in envelopmental journalism, which is the practice of paying off journalists to get to the front pages, TV and radio prime time, and the websites, or also not to get mentioned in these news organizations. But of course, it's not only envelopmental journalism, it's also ATM. The technology has evolved. It's also ATM journalism. The money is given directly to your accounts. Of course, the outcome will not be dramatic, but it will lead to two significant things. First, we in the media are opening the gates to public scrutiny. We are making ourselves the subject of news. We are asking the public to hold us to our promise to say no to corruptions. Because we are at the front lines of demanding transparency and accountability from public officials, we in the media should not exempt ourselves. A second significant thing is we are encouraging media to report on media, especially on corruption. After all, we are fair game. As one writer said, light reveals us to ourselves, and if I may add, light reveals us to others. I liken the covenant to an acupuncture treatment. We're sticking a few needles to parts of our body. The disease will be healed only after continuous treatment. There's also one thing which I forgot to add. News organizations have their own codes of ethics, and those who are strictly implementing this has led to suspension and firing of corrupt journalists. And the second way media can help the Ombudsman is through our reports. These are all available to the public and can be used as leads for government and civil society. We really, really want our stories to be helpful, to lead to change. So please use them. This is an appeal. Let not our reports languish in cyberspace or simply be used to wrap fish or pambalot ng tinapa. Thank you and good day.